Hi, I'm Dr. Matthew Anderson, and this is number 12 in my series of videos that I'm making during what I like to call the COVID event about surviving and thriving in this really difficult time. The title today is a little intense because this is an intense time, and if we're going to get through it simply to survive and move even past that into thriving, we've got to get a little intense. So the title of the conversation today is Embracing the Fire: How to Transform Bad Times into a Magnificent Life Lesson, or lessons. And the subtitle underneath that is, You are stronger, a lot stronger, and a lot more capable than you thought you were. So, to get started, I'm going to say just one thing. The single ingredient you're going to need in order to apply what I'm going to tell you today, the single most important ingredient you're going to need to apply what I'm going to tell you today is courage. Courage. And let me tell you something very fast, very quick about courage. It's not something that we have every day in us. It's something that we create in the moment. What does courage mean? It means to act from the heart when you are frightened, to act productively or bravely when you are in a state of fear. No fear, no courage. So it's not something that we carry around in us. I don't have like a basket full of courage inside of me. I have the willingness to create a productive, useful, helping kind of action in the midst of fear. That is courage. And so I'm going to ask you to listen today and then to do something with what I'm sharing with you in a meaningful way in your life. That's going to take courage. I'm going to start with a poem from, if you've been listening to my videos or watching my videos, you'll know I love Rumi. He's the best spiritual poet I think there ever was. I'm just going to read you the first part of one of his poems. Forget the world, and so command the world. Be a lamp or a lifeboat or a ladder. Help someone's soul heal. Walk out of your house like a shepherd. Stay in the spiritual fire. Let it cook you. Be a well-baked loaf and lord of the table. Come and be served to your brothers and sisters. You have been a source of pain. Now you'll be the delight. You have been an unsafe house. Now you'll be the one who sees into the invisible. Be a lamp or a lifeboat or a ladder. Help someone's soul heal. Walk out of your house like a shepherd. If you want to transform, and I am not using that word transform lightly. I know everybody who's got a frickin' video any place on the internet is talking about transforming your life, your mind, your body, everything. Transforming means to change the basic structure of something. It is not an easy task under any circumstances. So I'm using it in a very serious way. I'm saying if you want to transform the bad time in your life into what I like to call a magnificent life lesson, and as we get the lesson, we get a gift of equal size. It's going to take some courage. It's going to take some courage that you have to create in the moment when you do one of the things that I'm going to describe to you today. Now, I'm going to give you two very brief examples from my own life because they're very meaningful to me, and I hope at least to some of you might be meaningful to you. I went through a very difficult time as a child growing up in my relationship with my father, and the most painful thing for me about that entire experience is that my father did not talk. He could make words, but as I like to say to people, I never heard him make a paragraph. He just did not have verbal responses to things. And all through my life as a child, and then especially as a teenager, it used to cause me great problems. It would just drive me nuts that he wouldn't. I'd ask him a question, he'd give me a 1 or 2 word answer, sometimes a 3, maybe a sentence. A whole paragraph was very rare, and never an ongoing conversation, never. For me, that was torture. So I grow up, I go to therapy, I talk about my father issues, all these things that are driving me crazy about my father, and I really talked about that one until the day it all changed. I think it was probably in my mid-30s someplace. It changed when I had an insight, and I realized that kind of interaction with, at that point, the most important male figure in my life. Very painful, but that kind of interaction turned out to teach me a lesson that has been a gift for me the rest of my life. And in a certain sense, you're benefiting from it. If you like what I have to say today, you are benefiting from the torture that my father put me through because he couldn't talk. I came out of that experience with a deep appreciation of the power of verbal communication. Words are meaningful to me. Words are powerful to me, and I try to come up with the words that can make a difference in my life and in your life because of the difficulty that I went through. Now, would I choose to go back through it again? Yes, if I knew I was going to end up with the appreciation of the preciousness and power of words that I have now. I came to believe that there was a word, a redeeming, healing word that could be found for any kind of difficulty. There is a word that can help, a sentence, a word, a communication. I came to realize that the Jewish, the Christian, and the Muslim scriptures all say that God created with words. God said, "Let it be. Let there be light." And there was light. I came to realize that since we are created in the image of God, one of the things that we can do is create, and one of the most powerful creation tools we have is speaking. And I think I got to that because my father did not talk. And I suffered from that. And now I have joy related to it. So without going into too much detail or telling you too much about my own therapy there, I'm saying that was a good example of taking a really difficult situation that went on and on and on and on for years and transforming it into a true gift that I think I came into this world to learn that lesson and to get this gift. Now, the second thing I want to share very briefly with you, this could be a very long story, we'll make it very short. 1979, my wife and I had a flourishing counseling practice in Boston. We decided we couldn't take the dark anymore. Boston is about as dark as you can get for about 6 months of the year in terms of the weather. We decided we had to move to California, so we moved to LA. We thought it was the best place we could possibly move. And in 5 months, I spent all of my savings. I had $50,000. when I went to LA. In 5 months, done. Completely done. I added that, I went online and checked that out the other day, and $1980 would be worth $155,000 today. I spent the equivalent in today's dollars of $155,000 in 5 months. I went broke. Had to get in my car, take my family, drive back to the Boston area, and live in a friend's basement for 10 weeks. Trying to heal my wounds, deal with my shame, my disappointment, my disillusionment. And finally, we found a place to live in San Diego. Someone gave us this furnished little apartment. We moved there, and in a year, we recreated our business, actually even better than it was in Boston. I learned 1,000 life lessons from that. So many wonderful life lessons. Was it hard? Was it painful? Was it humiliating? Did I feel full of shame and stupid and all of that? Yes, I did. I'm laughing now. You can see I'm laughing. I don't have any pain about it at all at this point. And I learned, I could go on and on and on telling you how I learned about resilience, how I learned not to put my ego in front of my pocketbook or my life, how to make wiser decisions, how to learn from crisis, how to manage my money better, how to learn, beginning at least, to learn to reach out to friends and family and ask for help. I learned all kinds of powerful life lessons from that crisis. Didn't happen to me, I created that one. But they show up whether we create them or whether they seem to just be visited upon us. And what do we need to learn the lesson? We need a goal. This is my way of talking about it. We need a goal that justifies the suffering. Now I want to ask you a question. What great and amazing result do you need in order to justify or redeem the suffering you are experiencing in this COVID event? And are you willing to create the courage to look for and accomplish that result? Now, I'm going to tell you 5 things that you can do. 5. You can pick one if you want. Any one of them is going to help. But I'm going to tell you 5. 5 things that you can do with courage that are going to help you create amazing and, in a sense, redeeming results. Remember what I said about my father didn't talk and used to drive me nuts, and now I feel so blessed that I understand the preciousness of verbal communication. One example. Are you willing to create the courage it takes to look for and to accomplish what it takes to turn this bad stuff, to turn this bad time, whatever it is, and I know some of you are suffering a lot, and I know everybody is suffering at least a little bit. So I'm not saying this lightly to you. I know this will take courage, but I'm also saying to you, you are a lot stronger than you thought you were. Right when it gets to the point, and I love to say this to myself when I'm in difficult times, right when we get to that point where we say, this is taking longer than I can stand, I can't stand it anymore, the research says you've got 40 to 60% of your strength yet to come. After that point, you are a lot stronger and a lot more capable than you thought you were. So here are the 5 things. I'm going to get to them as quickly as possible. And I'm going to say a lot of things here. If you want the list of questions that I'm going to talk about later, I'll be happy to send them to you if you email me. I'll tell you the email at the end of this conversation. Item number 1, sort of a combination of 2, but they're related. If you want to transform what you're going through, let go of victim and find backbone. Let go of thinking of yourself as a victim. Now, in a certain sense, we're all victimized by this COVID thing. It shows up, it screws up our lives financially, physically. It may have even killed people that you really love. We cannot afford the toxic luxury of victimhood. I'm going to say that to you again. You and I cannot afford the toxic luxury of victimhood. When we start thinking about ourselves as victims, even if in a certain sense we're legitimate, okay? But we start thinking that way, what we do, what we experience is powerlessness. We lose touch with any and all power that we might have within ourselves to begin our recovery process. And it pushes us down into darkness. It pushes us down into helplessness that's not productive. There's a kind of helplessness that is productive, like when Rumi says, prayer is an egg, hatch out the total helplessness inside it. He means when you get to the point where you feel totally helpless, that's the time to really open your heart and say, God, help me. But you don't say it hopelessly. You say it helplessly, meaning, I need divine help here, and I'm willing to accept it. Okay. Let go of thinking of yourself as a victim. Find some backbone. I'm telling you, you have more than you thought you did. And become a hero. Look around you and see who needs help and offer them that help. And don't leave yourself out of the equation. If you need help, you ask for it for yourself too. That's a heroic act for a lot of people. Sometimes you have to say, okay, everybody back off a little bit. I got to take care of myself right now. I'll be back. I know it sounds like Arnold, but you have to say that sometimes. Let go of victimhood, the toxic luxury of victimhood. Find your backbone and be the hero. Remember what Rumi said? He said, be a lamp, a lifeboat, or a ladder. Help someone's soul heal. Walk out of your house like a shepherd. You can do that. Number 2. I know this is going to sound funny. If you want an in-depth exploration of this next point, I suggest you go to YouTube and look up Jordan Peterson. He's got some great videos, especially the one about 12 rules for life. And inside one of them, he says, if you want your life to get better, your life is in chaos, and you want it to get better, clean up your room. I know every single one of you who is a parent, who has a child, especially a teenager, is going to love this part, but I'm saying to you, it works for anybody, no matter how old you are. Literally, if you're feeling in chaos and you don't know what to do about it, and you feel helpless and hopeless, go clean up your room. Go into your room, that part of your life where you call your room, and look around for what needs to be straightened up, and clean it up. It might be a drawer in your bedroom. That's a holy mess. And I have one, and I have to clean it up every once in a while. I don't know, when I just push it back in there, something happens, and chaos creeps back in there. And then I have to go back and clean it up every once in a while. But if you clean up your room, what you will go through to do that will establish a certain sense of order in you, a certain sense of peacefulness, a certain sense of being in control. And once your room is cleaned up, then you can go the next step to the next thing that seems to be appropriate to clean up, straighten up, or bring some order to. And that will create a path for you that if you keep doing that sort of thing, you will come out of this not just surviving, but a stronger person. Absolutely. It does work. Now, my favorite, I guess my favorite one of these is number 3. of 5 things that you can do to transform your bad times into magnificent life lessons. That's what we're talking about. Number 3 is ask really good questions. Now, this is probably the hardest part, the hardest one. Because when people get into chaos, they often don't want to stop and really ask good questions. I have a list of a few that you might want to ask. What I mean by good questions are questions that you would think are beautiful questions, are provocative questions, are hard questions, are deep questions, are revealing questions, and sometimes even simple questions. I'll give you a few. If this crisis was my teacher, what would be my biggest lesson so far? If I saw this crisis as my teacher, what would be the biggest lesson I've learned so far? Now, if you ask yourself that question, you are already on the way to finding your answer. And if you find a big, powerful, meaning lesson that you've learned, then you've got a big gift that goes along with it. Second question, wonderful to ask. I did a whole video on this one before. I don't really know what number it is, but it's called How Do You Like Yourself So Far? The question is, who am I being or becoming in this crisis? Who am I being or becoming in this crisis? What in the world is this crisis bringing out in you? Such an important question. What does this crisis require of me that I am not living up to so far? What does this crisis require of me that I am not living up to so far? That question and its answer takes some courage. Look in the mirror and say, I look in the mirror and say, Matthew, are you losing your patience? Are you becoming more irritable? Do you need to find more patience, more compassion, more understanding, more acceptance of other people, i.e. yourself too? Good question. Another question. What does it inspire in me? What does this crisis inspire in me? And if it's nothing yet, look for it. What could inspire me today? How could I be creative in this crisis? Now, I got a good answer for that one, because as soon as this crisis became a reality to me, I decided, well, I'm going to create one hopefully useful video every single week until this thing is pretty much past. Today is number 12. So I've been living up to that part of my commitment, and I plan to continue that every week. Big question. In the midst of this crisis, what am I discovering is truly important? Truly important. Another question that we all have to ask, that's a terrible one to have to ask. Terrible. It takes some courage to confront it, but for some people, many people, far too many people, this one is important. What if someone close to me dies? How am I going to deal with that? That can happen. It's not over. At this point, close to 100,000 Americans have died due to this coronavirus. 100,000. Multiply that by all the people that they were related to that loved them and cared about them. We need to ask these questions because they are really important, especially people like me. In November, I'll be 75 years old. I'm in the danger zone, they like to say. So then one question I have to ask myself is, what if this frickin' thing kills me? Am I ready for that? Or someone I love and care about? We need to have the courage to ask those questions, because if we ask them and we really look for answers, we do way better when these things begin to happen. Okay, That's a lot of really good questions. I said number 4, I've already given you an example of that one. Number 4 thing to do to transform bad times into magnificent life lessons is get creative. Now, everybody is creative. You're creating your life every moment of every day. Every moment you wake up in the morning, and how you get out of bed is a creative act. How you decide what to eat for breakfast, how you interact with everyone in your life is a creative act. So get even more creative. Look into yourself and say, what can I create today that would be useful or inspiring? I went in my back office the other day and I saw a little container of the fluid you use to blow bubbles. And I thought, I haven't used that in maybe 2 years. So I got it out, turned on the fan that I have right here in this client room that I'm in, turned it on full blast and started blowing bubbles all over the room, and made a little video of it and sent it to my wife and some of my kids. It was so much fun. I created a moment of light happiness with bubbles. Anything you want to do that's creative, give it a shot. This is your opportunity. And now number 5, and if you didn't hear anything else I said today, I hope you hear this one. I hope you hear it. I hope you take it right into your heart. Number 5, stop thinking you are significant. Everything you do matters. You are not an insignificant person. Everything you do matters. Everything you do matters. You are not insignificant. You are valuable, and your responses every day to your own needs and to the needs around you and the people that you care about, the people you meet on the street, the people that you wave at when you're walking in the grocery store behind the other mask, you matter. Remind yourself you are not insignificant. You do matter. And so your responses to this crisis are going to make a difference, first in your own life, but also in the lives of every single person you encounter. So if you didn't hear anything else, find the courage to face the truth about yourself. The most important truth you could ever face about yourself is you matter. God bless you.